Okay, good evening, everyone. Just welcome you, committee members. Nice to see you. Those watching at home, applicants, agents, welcome to Committee of Adjustment for the City of Brantford. We'll first go through some special COVID-related procedures, kind of related to this new meeting format, and then we will get into our kind of regular programming, where I will again read some procedures related to the way the Committee of Adjustment hearings will be structured. So I'll now call the Committee of Adjustment to order, as this meeting is held electronically due to COVID-19 pandemic. I will go over some rules and procedures for the benefit of the members and viewing public. So this meeting is being streamed live via the City of Brantford YouTube account. Members of the committee will be muted upon entering the meeting and throughout when they are not speaking, in order to reduce background noise. All webcams for the committee members shall be turned on throughout the meeting. If a member needs to leave their seat, please leave the camera on so we recognize that you are away. Staff will be requested to join the video meeting should they need to answer any questions of any members. Movers and seconders of motions shall be indicated by raising your hand on the camera, and the chair will call out who the mover and the seconder are. All members of the committee participating via online video conference will vote by a physical show of hands. A recorded vote will be taken by the clerk. Applicants, agents, owners, and delegations participating via Zoom or telephone accordingly, or are participating via Zoom or telephone accordingly. All persons wishing to speak to the items on the agenda were required to register by 9 a.m. Any delegations received in written format have been provided to the members of the committee and will form part of the meeting record. In the event that a connection or service interruption occurs that affects the quorum of the committee, we may recess the meeting up to 15 minutes to regain quorum. If quorum is not achieved, the meeting is adjourned. So I'll ask the clerk to take the roll call.
Virginia Kershaw.
Here.
Perfect. Tara Gaskin.
Present.
Dan Nemesiak.
Present.
Christina Brooks.
Present.
Lee Reiner.
Present.
And Greg Kempa.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'll ask if any of the committee members have any conflict of interest for any of the items on the agenda this evening. Okay, and seeing none, I will now read the standard procedures for this public hearing. So this meeting is held in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss minor variance, consent, and severance applications, and give members of the public the opportunity to ask questions, express concerns, or provide comments either in support or against an application. Each hearing is generally dealt with in accordance to the order that they appear on the agenda. In the event that the hearing is not completed on this date, it will be adjourned to a later date, at which time the committee may hear further submissions. At the conclusion of each hearing, this committee will make a decision on the application. The names of those individuals who speak on any item tonight will appear within the meeting minutes. Anyone wishing to receive further notice of any hearing, including the committee's decision, please contact the City Clerk's Department. Minor variance decisions are final if there are no appeals 20 days after the committee's decision, and consent applications or consent decisions are final if there are no appeals 20 days after the notice of the decision has been issued. So tonight's order of delegation will be as follows. We will have the applicant join us at the table to present details of their proposal, followed by questions from the committee. We will then call upon staff to present the details of the staff report and their recommendation, followed by an opportunity for questions from the committee. Following staff's presentation, we will open the floor to the public. This is the public portion that will allow any interested parties to ask questions, provide concerns or comments. followed by questions of clarification from the committee. Then we'll have one more opportunity for the committee to ask clarification for or to staff or to the applicant based on any information that's been received. So with that being said, our first item on the agenda is application, consent and minor variance application B12 2019 and A11 2019 for 28 St. Andrews Drive. I will note, as identified in the staff report, that the applicants are now requesting a deferral. There are members of the public who wish to speak to this application as part of the statutory public meeting. If the deferral of this application carries, there will be a second statutory public meeting when the application returns to this committee. So at this point, we will be giving the applicants and the members of the public who wish to speak the opportunity to do so. I think that benefits the committee, it benefits the applicants and the members of the public involved. So, Mr. Cinco, welcome.
Thank you, and good evening, members of the committee and attendees. My name is Derek Cinco. I'm legal counsel and agent for the applicant. I do have a last-minute update. We are requesting that the committee still defer the application for consent, but we are seeking to abandon the application for the minor variance. The reasons for that remain the same as outlined in your agenda, given the public comments that were recently received, as well as staff being unable to provide a favorable recommendation on the minor variance. We are seeking the deferral of the consent and to abandon the minor variance.
Okay, so I will wait for staff at the appropriate time just to confirm whether or not this is new or known information to them. Have you shared that information with staff?
The only change is that we are no longer seeking a deferral of the minor variance. We are seeking to abandon that and only defer the consent. Staff is unaware of that. Staff last we spoke with we had advised that we were requesting a deferral of both applications. The applicant has recently decided to seek to abandon the minor variance application. So that part is new.
And so just to clarify, by abandon, you mean withdraw the application?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Just to make sure that's clear. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before I turn it over to the committee for any further questions?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Does the committee have any questions for Mr. Cinco? Okay, seeing none, we will thank you for the information, and we will invite staff into the room. And Sean is here, so Sean, you're more than welcome to present any information that you have at this point, and then perhaps towards the end you could provide any comments on Mr. Cinco's update.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I can't see it on mine. Okay, there's the PowerPoint. I was just checking about that. So I'll just give a brief overview of what staff had received for the application that's now being requested to be deferred, as well as withdrawn for the minor variance. So it was a consent to minor variance application at 28 St. Andrews Drive, which is situated on the north side of St. Andrews Drive and northwest of Hardy Road. Next slide. So a two-story single detached dwelling currently exists on the property, and the applicant is proposing to sever the easterly side yard to create a new lot. And to facilitate this lot creation, they had applied for a minor variance to permit a lot width of 23 meters on the retained property and 18 meters on the severed lands. This was actually applied for back in 2019. However, there were some concerns from our engineering department regarding servicing and a noise study, which weren't addressed until recently. So as the applicant noted, they've requested deferral of their consent application in light of the comments that have come in from the public and staff clarifying our position that we wouldn't be able to provide a favorable recommendation on the minor variance, and that a zoning bylaw amendment may be more appropriate in this instance. Staff is supportive of the deferral request. Next slide. The application was circulated to all property owners within 60 meters of the property, as well as by posting a public notice sign. To date, we've received letters from 26 nearby properties, 24 of them in opposition, 2 in support. I've received phone calls from 2 residents who live nearby who also had the same concerns as those who had written letters of opposition. We've also received a petition with 34 signatures in opposition to this proposal, which was circulated to the committee prior to this meeting. So in conclusion, we recommend that application B12-2019 be deferred, and as we had recommended that A11-2019 be deferred as well, but if the application has withdrawn that, then there's no reason for the committee to make a decision on that application that's now withdrawn. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, good. Thank you, Sean. Any questions from the committee to planning staff? Sean, I just have one question, kind of clarification, procedural. If the applicants do choose to submit a zoning bylaw amendment application to deal with the deficient frontage, is typical procedure of the city to deal with that rezoning application prior to it coming back to the committee for consent?
To you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. The zoning bylaw amendment would need to be approved prior to the consent application coming back.
Okay. Mr. Mudo,
Good
you
evening,
got some
Mr.
comments?
Chairman, members of committee. I would just like to add, this is news to us in terms of Mr. Cinco's request. I would just like to clarify that if that is the case in terms of the withdrawal of the minor variance, we would request that Mr. Cinco provide us with a formal letter identifying the withdrawal of that application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mudo. Fair enough. Mr. Cinco, are you okay with that? Providing a letter, formal withdrawal?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we'll provide that.
Okay. Any further questions from the committee to staff? Seeing none. So we do have some residents who are registered to speak this evening. I believe my records show that there are 4 who are registered to speak. So we will allow them to do so. I'll just remind the residents that the application for consent is being deferred, or the request for deferral, and that the minor variance application has been requested to be withdrawn. So any concerns related to the reduced frontage, you will have another opportunity to do so to address those concerns. So I would just ask that some of the comments kind of be limited to the applications that are current. I believe the clerks will invite any members of the public who have registered to speak to join us. Ms. Zudema, welcome.
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to you if you just want to state your name and address for the record.
Yes,
And then
thank you.
the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Jody Zudema. I live at 96 St. Andrews Drive. Thank you very much for granting me a few minutes to provide some submissions with respect to this last minute deferral request. You will see that there was a petition that was circulated and submitted to your committee earlier this morning, providing a number of addresses, names, phone numbers, emails. And those neighbors have asked that I do two things. One is to indicate their opposition to these applications, now just the one application. And secondly, to permit to speak on their behalf, so that way you don't have a great number of people saying the same thing over and over again. So I would ask that you kindly note that my submissions to you this evening are being provided as an agent. I'm one of the neighbors. I'm not here as the legal counsel for the neighbors. And in an effort to streamline the process, the neighbors are not going to stand in the way of this last minute deferral. The only thing I ask for some clarification is to do the deferral to when. Are we looking, is the request to defer to the next committee meeting or sometime later than that? I just do not know, and if I'd be grateful to know that. My suggestion to this committee is that if you're going to permit a deferral, that it should be done to provide adequate time for the neighbors to organize. Even though these applications have been in the pipe for about 2 years, most only learned of them only 2 weeks ago when the sign was posted on the lawn. I also wanted to confirm that by granting the deferral, I would kindly ask the committee to get confirmation from the applicant that they are not going to take any action with respect to this matter, that the hearing has not been held within 30 days after the application's been received by the Secretary Treasurer. And I'm referring now to Section 45(4) of the Planning Act. As well, the applicant has not indicated specifically to you this evening that they indeed are going to seek a zoning bylaw amendment. If that's the purpose of the deferral, then I'd be grateful to know that. The residents in the area would like to know that. So if the applicant is going to pursue a rezoning instead of obviously now no longer seeking a minor variance, then the neighbors would like to get notice of that forthwith, because we do not want to incur additional expenses needlessly. So if I may be permitted with respect to the applications themselves, I just wanted to bring a couple of glaring errors to this committee's attention at this meeting, recognizing you're not dealing potentially with the merits of the matter this evening, but I do want it reflected in the minutes and in the record for this evening that these are items that need to be corrected. And it's in my respectful submission, a suggestion of the shoddy and haphazard approach that this application has taken to date. So the first one is, when you have a chance to look through the applications themselves, you'll see that in part 5 of the consent application, it's on the minor variance too, but now that's moot. The consent application under the heading of provincial and municipal policy, the question is, what's the current zoning for the property? And the answer that's provided is, quote, R1A-1 residential type 1A bracket 18 meters zone, unquote. This is factually wrong. There is no inclusion of the reference to 18 meters within the R1A1 zone. That's the zone that applies to this property. It's 30 meters. The second thing that I want you to take judicial notice of is the letter that was provided by Mr. Van Porten. He's a planner with Cahoon Engineering. It's dated October 20th. You probably have it in your package of materials. When you have a chance to look at this letter, you'll see that nowhere in this letter, this planning justification, is there even the mention of the legislative requirements for a consent application. Nowhere in the letter are the criteria of Section 5124 of the Planning Act even mentioned, not even referenced. It's as if Mr. Van Porten completely forgot that his clients were even seeking a severance. So I asked the committee to take judicial notice of this obvious omission, which again in my respectful submission, suggests that this has all been done to simply justify shoehorning an additional dwelling in an undersized lot. And thirdly, on the face of the applications, you'll see on the consent application that there wasn't so much as a pre-consultation meeting even held with city staff prior to the applications being filed, nor was there a survey that was provided, a survey that's been prepared by an Ontario land surveyor. That is a requirement. It's crystal clear when you look at part 7 of the application. It says copies of a plan, survey, or boundary description drawn to scale by an Ontario land surveyor is to be submitted. That's missing. The fact that the applicants want a deferral and now have withdrawn this minor variance application is they clearly have recognized that their minor variance application would have failed, and that's why they're looking for a different strategy now to fulfill their objective. So those are my submissions to you. I ask you to take judicial notice of the paucity of information and the errors that are already on the face of the materials. And I ask that I reserve the right to make submissions and tender evidence on behalf of myself and my neighbors whenever this matter comes back before you on the merits of the application that's remaining. And I'd like to at that time point out the numerous and significant deficiencies in the analyses that's been provided in support of these applications. So I thank you very much for your time and consideration on this and indulging me with an audience to be able to provide my submissions this evening. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you for that information. I'll turn it over to the committee. Is there any questions of clarification to Ms. Sudema? Okay, I'll just ask one, Ms. Sudema, just for clarification, just to make sure that you and on behalf of the residents are leaving here with information that you are seeking. Is there any questions that you would like answered this evening, but from the applicant or staff?
So in my submissions, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In my submissions, I had indicated, one, to know when this application is coming back, because it's so far, I hear a deferral, but is it sine die? Is it indefinite? I have no idea. And two, confirmation that the applicant's looking to do a rezoning, because if that's the case, then the residents in the area would like to start organizing, because we will be objecting to that, and we will be bringing evidence to City Council with respect to that, because either way, it's a bad idea. And that's the message we want to bring across both to the committee and potentially to Council.
Okay, perfect. I've made those notes, and we will have the applicant or agent provide clarification once the other residents have had a chance to speak.
Thank you kindly.
All right, thank you. So we have a second resident who will be joining us to provide comments or questions. Patty, welcome. I'll just remind you, you're a little bit twisted, but I think that's okay. But if you would like us to hear, oh, perfect. If you'd like us to hear you, make sure you unmute yourself.
Okay, no, I'm just here observing, so I have no comments.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Said. Thank you.
And we have a third and final resident on this item. I should note that we did have 4, and the first one on our list, or on my list at least, was also just observing. So we'll see if our 4th has any additional comments to add. I'll just remind you to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that.
No, thank you.
I think at this point in time, I'm just going to say I'm observing, because if the application for the minor variance has been taken off the table, that's fantastic. And I wait to see whatever this zoning bylaw issue is, what that means. And I would highly suggest I'm going to vehemently oppose that as well. been living in this area on St. Andrews Drive since 1993. There were all kinds of covenants, rules, restrictions that ourselves and all of my neighbors have abided by. And that included size of property, size of house. And it's just really disappointing to see that somebody doesn't respect that. So we'll see whatever the zoning bylaw issue is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions or clarification to Ms. Dubois? Okay, seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that concludes my list of residents who have been registered to speak to these items today or tonight. Mr. Cinco, have you been taking some notes? Ms. Zudema did have a few points that she would like clarified. One of those items being, where are my notes? One of those items is the timing. I know your original request for deferral mentioned the December Committee of Adjustment meeting, which would be one meeting cycle. I think the answer to the first question might be dependent on your intentions to seek a zoning bylaw amendment application or not, just based on timing of meetings and processing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the answer to those questions are related. At this time, I can't confirm that the applicant will be definitely bringing a zoning amendment application. We are currently considering the merits of that application. And so given that at this time, I would be requesting, and I believe it was the position of staff as well, that the deferral of the consent should be essentially sine die until any zoning bylaw amendment can be brought and dealt with.
Okay, perfect. So no set time frame on the deferral.
Correct.
Okay. Perfect. At this time, I'll just ask. I'll formally close the public portion of the meeting, knowing that we have had an opportunity to hear from those residents who have registered to speak. And we have heard clarification from the applicant's agent. I'll just ask if the committee members have any further questions of clarification to the applicant's agent or staff at this time. Greg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question I'll have to staff when this does come back brings me back to something that Mrs. Dubois raised, and I saw in some of the particulars coming back, is the role of covenants in a particular neighborhood and how that impacts planning staff, and does it impact the role of this committee?
Sorry, Greg, were you looking for a response on that tonight or just as with an update to any future applications?
We can table it to whenever this comes back to us, but I suspect it will be raised, and I don't have enough background to know whether or not that impacts my thought process.
Yep. Fair enough.
Thank you.
Sean, you can take a crack at it now, or you can wait.
No, through you, Mr. Chair, just that I've noted that question, and when it comes back, we'll provide an answer for you.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any further questions or clarification? Okay, seeing none. So we have the request for deferral. I'll look for a motion from the committee to get that on the table. Greg?
Happy to move, seeking a second to defer the matter to such time that the applicant gets back to us.
Okay, seconder. Chris?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? So the motion is for deferral with no set time frame. The application will come back when it's deemed appropriate. No discussion on the motion, so I'll have the clerk call the vote.
All in favor, raise your hand and leave it raised until you hear your name called. Tara Gaskin, Greg Kempa, Lee Reiner, Dan Nemesniak, Virginia Kershaw, and Christina Brooks. That carried.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you to the residents who have been involved thus far. And I would encourage them to stay connected, and they should know that they will receive notice of any future Planning Act application related hearings for this property. Moving on to the second item on our agenda. This is another consent and minor variance application, B15 2020 and A19 2020 for 87 Abigail Avenue. Is the applicant present this evening? Mr. Castagna, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Chairman.
I'll turn the floor over to you if you want to provide us some details of your proposal, and perhaps you've also received some of the comments from any residents, and you're more than welcome to address some of those comments now and or later.
Okay. Mr. Chairman and members, thank you for the opportunity to speak to this application to sever 87 Abigail Ave in Brantford. So I'm the applicant and representing myself as Caroline Home Builders and Design. I'm a local home builder who does custom spec homes in Brantford and Paris. I've done many homes in the Henderson area and some in the Terrace Hill area, as well as Paris older areas. So the opportunity arose here to take this property that's 90 feet wide and put two 45-foot homes on, split it in half and put two 45-foot lots there with custom design and built bungalow, two-bedroom bungalow, two-bedroom up, one-bedroom down. A copy of the elevation was provided with the application, and I don't know if you've I didn't see it as part of the paperwork that was submitted, but it may have came to you as separate. But basically, a bungalow on each property. They're just going to be a mirror image, but they're going to be stone and brick, so they will complement the existing properties that are on either side of the home. Being that its proximity to the Henderson neighborhood, again, keeping with the design and color, etc. There'll be brick and stone as well to complement that part of the street or the area. The current properties that are if you're looking at the house to the right of it, Marguerite Street. The majority of them are actually smaller than the requested application to sever the property into 45-foot lots. The majority of those properties are 4 of the 6 are 37 feet wide. So the closer you get to Marguerite Street, the smaller they get. Again, the one next door and the one beside it are 45 and 50 feet wide. So the application and the property being designed, built there, requested design built there, won't look out of place because they'll be similar in size and again, bungalows, so they're not two-story homes that are going to look like they're out of place. Again, that's kind of where it sits right now. If there's any questions or clarification, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Any questions from the committee to the applicant? No questions from the committee, so we'll invite staff to present the staff report and recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just wait for the PowerPoint presentation to come up. Planning staff have received a consent and minor variance application for 87 Abigail Avenue. Next slide. The property is located on Abigail Avenue, south of Franklin Street, has an area of 1,014 square meters. The subject lands are designated residential area, low density, in the city's official plan and zoned R1A and zoning bylaw 16090. Next slide.
Yeah, we're having some technical difficulties with the slideshow screen sharing function.
Okay.
If you just want to bear with us one moment.
Okay, perfect. Looks like we're back in action. If you could just go to the next slide. There we go. So these lands at 87 Abigail Avenue are occupied by a single detached dwelling with an attached garage and accessory structure. Next slide. So the applicant is proposing to sever the existing property in 2 lots for the purpose of constructing a single detached dwelling on each property, and the existing dwelling and detached garage will be demolished. Next slide. To facilitate the consent application, minor variances are required to permit a minimum lot area of 507 square meters, whereas a minimum of 550 square meters is required. Another variance for lot width to permit 13.8 meters, whereas 18 meters is required. And a minor variance to permit a maximum lot coverage of 36%, whereas a maximum lot coverage of 35% is required. Next slide. A notice of this public hearing was issued by personal mail and by posting a sign on site. 2 members of the public had phoned planning staff raising concerns, as well as 2 emails and 1 letters were also received, which were circulated to the committee. Ward Councillor Sless also informed us that he had received 6 phone calls in opposition to the proposal. The residents have raised concerns with the changing landscape of the neighborhood, proximity of a proposed new dwelling to existing dwellings, loss of trees, and construction. Next slide. Oh, sorry, previous slide. And previous slide again. Thank you. For a minor variance to be approved, it must satisfy the 4 tests of the Planning Act. It must maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw, be minor in nature, and desirable for the appropriate development and use of the land. It is the opinion of planning staff that the variances are minor, as they will not result in adverse impacts on adjacent properties and are consistent with the lot widths and areas of other existing lots along Abigail Avenue, specifically south of the subject property. The minor variances are desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land, as it will not restrict development on adjacent properties. The proposed dwellings will maintain the front, rear, and side yard requirements of the zoning bylaw and will result in dwellings of a similar size and scale to what currently exists in the neighborhood. Minor variances meet the general intent and purposes of zoning bylaw 16090 and the official plan by resulting in a lot that will appropriately accommodate a single detached dwelling consistent with the existing character of the neighborhood. The subject property is one of 2 lots on the east side of Abigail Avenue that are zoned R1A, and the remaining lots are zoned R1C. The R1C zone has a minimum lot area of 360 square meters and a minimum frontage of 12 meters. Therefore, the proposed lot widths and areas are consistent with the majority of lots along Abigail Avenue. Staff is of the opinion that the minor variances meet the 4 tests of section 45(1) of the Planning Act. Section 5124 of the Planning Act lists criteria that the Committee of Adjustment must have regard for when considering consent application for approval. These criteria include if the plan conforms to the official plan, the dimensions and shapes of the proposed lot, and the adequacy of utilities and municipal services. The official plan also lists criteria for consent applications, including if the severance is for the purpose of infilling, if no extension or improvement of municipal services are required, and if the lot will have frontage on a public road. The consent application is for the purpose of creating a new residential lot within an existing residential neighborhood. Both the severed and retained parcels have frontage on a municipal roadway and have lot areas that are similar in shape and size to existing lots in the area. Any redevelopment of the site will be subject to all city requirements, including site plan control. Planning staff have given regard to Section 5124 of the Planning Act and are satisfied that the application is desirable and compatible with the surrounding area and will not result in adverse impacts on surrounding properties. To conclude, staff recommend that applications B15 2020 and A19 2020 be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions from the committee to staff? No questions from the committee to staff. So at this time, we will open the public portion of this hearing. And I know I do have 2 residents registered to speak this evening. Okay. It's my understanding that both residents who did register are just observing tonight, unless they wish to speak.
Just lost it.
Mr. Oliver, are you looking to provide us with some comments or questions this evening? Oh, now he's gone. Playing tricks on me. Okay. Mr. Oliver's back and he's on mute, and he's still on mute. There we go. Perfect.
My apology. If I had planned to speak, I would have at least combed my hair. I would at least like to address the planning committee on the situation with, I believe it's R11A. You heard from Ms. Zudema tonight about their properties, which are more highly valued than those in Henderson Survey. And while at least this fits the character of the balance of the street, the closer you move towards Margarita Street, as has been stated, I think we need to be very cautious with the trend that we see and understand the planning constraints that you face with the province encouraging 2 homes on 1 lot and the severance of large properties. But the character and nature of Henderson Survey beyond that is a border property, but beyond that should be retained, because we only have the St. Andrews Court area where Ms. Zudema spoke of tonight, and Henderson Survey, which fit that particular character. So I do have concern that this not become practice. 16 years ago, when the church was removed, we're at the corner of Queensway and St. George. There were 4 homes put in. We were not given much option to speak. And the lots there are 8,000 feet. Well, now you're down to 8,000 square feet, and now you're down to what, 4,000 square feet? 5,000 square feet, certainly under what your planning minimum is. So that while it may be appropriate for that particular streetscape, I hope the planning committee will be very cautious about any changes to the nature of the Henderson Survey. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. Any questions or clarification from the committee to Mr. Oliver? Seeing no questions. Thank you for your comments. I think you'll be happy you spoke. Sharon, would you like to provide any comments or just spectating this evening?
No, I would really like to speak if I could. I am connected to that property. My backyard looks into that backyard. And I know that the lot sizes in our part of Henderson Survey are not big. But I also know that when trends start, the less wealthy part of the neighborhood will get the hurt first. So I'm concerned for that. I'm concerned for the trend. I'm concerned that the first letter I got was dated for last month, and I only had a week to prepare for this. And the plans only came out on Friday. I would have liked to see them much sooner than that. During a pandemic, it's not easy to get any sort of petition together, or it is not easy to get questions answered. And I feel the 4 days I had to learn about this was not enough. I'm very concerned about the loss of the garage and the big trees. Those provide a lot of privacy for my lot, my neighbors' lots. Our backyards are very close together while there is a milk lane in between. I'm assuming that this house is going to go quite a bit deeper into the lot, which means the patio is closer. So my loss of privacy and quality of living over the next year and a half is a big concern. I noticed that in the last hearing, Ms. Zeidema talked about, or no, Sean House mentioned that one of the reasons they did not recommend the study or the variance was because of a noise study. Well, I don't see how building 2 houses in our neighborhood will be, less noisy, and maybe it doesn't matter because we are not on St. Andrews, but I would like to live during a pandemic, not in a construction zone. I wish we had more time. I wish I would have been able to ask more questions. I'm worried about the neighbor who's right beside. That's an older home, and she is older too. And I feel like the short notice didn't give anybody time to prepare. So I would really like more time if that's at all possible. And I'm really thankful for this opportunity. I'm thankful that there's a committee that listens to what citizens have to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to speak.
Good, thank you. Sharon, just to confirm, are there any questions that you would like answered this evening?
I guess this is all new to me. I'm not a professional in any way. I'm a regular person. I'd like to know what's stopping the builder from, once he gets permission, from deciding to put up 2-story buildings simply because he could make more money on them. Or I'm wondering, since our neighborhood is built on sand, what kind of precautions he's going to take so that when the heavy machinery comes in, it's not going to damage our landscaping and it's not going to damage homes nearby. I'm not only talking about lot value, but who's going to pay for the repairs when things happen? Is he going to use the milk lane that's behind my home to access his yard? I feel like we don't have any information on how this is going to go down. And I feel kind of vulnerable and a little bit taken advantage of because I live on Lyons Ave and I don't live on Franklin or maybe the Strand or St. Andrews. Maybe a builder can answer me, like if he's actually going to do this bungalow, or if he might change his mind, or what kind of precautions he will take.
Okay, good questions. Tony, are you able to provide a little bit of insight into your thought process to the elevation that you've settled on for this site?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute it. Yes, I'd like to speak to and hopefully answer some of Sharon's questions if I could. The plan that was submitted, the elevation that was presented and that was shown actually, which is actually good. I'm glad they showed it. That was presented to this committee and submitted is the plan I'm building. So just so you know, I don't have a reputation. I've been building homes for 30 years, and again in Brantford, in Bray County, in Paris, and in a lot in the Henderson survey. I've done a lot of homes where I've demolished a home, for example, in an Orchard, and built a new one. That home that was there was 360,000, and then when I sold the other one, it was closer to $1 million. All the neighbors were happy with the product, and you can go see the product over there if you like. It's Orchard and Holborn. You'll see the house that I built. I don't build two-story homes, and for the biggest reason is because I don't particularly like them. I don't like the look of them, or people don't like to live in them because I'm trying to attract a larger crowd of people, which is, it could be a young couple, an older couple, or in the middle, like to live in a bungalow because they're more comfortable, more expensive to build, but that's fine. So the intention isn't to come in there and start damaging property. I don't do that. I haven't done that in the past, and I work well with my neighbors. And I think and I can certainly, if you like, I can contacts of other neighbors that where I've done work and come out with the neighbors being happy with what was done there. I think if I'm tearing down a house that I paid $560,000 for, I'm going to put something up there that's really nice because I have to get my money back. So what I'm going to be building is going to be probably in the 750s when that's potentially what I'm looking to sell them for. If I'm going to be investing $1.5 million in potential properties that I'm selling there, I want to do something nice. And so if I'm asking that kind of money, I'm going to do something nice. So my intention is and has always been to respect my neighbors' properties, to work well with my neighbors. And in your case, I'm not quite sure which home is yours, if you're behind the garage or if you're behind the trees. But if I can keep one of the tree that's closer to the lane, if I can keep that tree, I would. And I'm not sure how that's gonna stand when I have to see where the tree fits on the property. And that's certainly it's a nice tree, and it provides shade for the property. It provides privacy. But the home that's being built is the backyard is quite deep, and the covered porch in the back is quite a ways from the milk access, as you call it. So there's still quite a bit of privacy there. I mean, you're going to have probably a nicer backyard in the sense that you'll be looking at something that's a green space versus a big garage. So that's a double car garage. It's quite big. That's there, right? I mean, I'm always willing to work with my neighbors. I'm always respectful of them. I have to provide deposits for whatever I'm doing there, and then I have to also sign a legal contract in this case that I'm going to do everything I'm asked to do, and so on. So I think once you see what's going there, and I won't be taking. My intentions are to take 1.5 years to do it. I can't even get started until early next year anyway, even if I wanted to, because of what has to happen still. So I think I'd be happy to meet with you. I'd be happy to show you what's going to go up there, and I think you'll be happy when you see what's coming up there. And if you're interested, I can send you to some of the homes that I've done. And I've even in Paris, for example, I've done gone in older areas and built new homes, and the neighbors are all happy with what's gone there, and they brought property values up. So what I'm building there, I'm not a tract builder. I'm not a builder from out of town that's going to come in and leave. I live in Brantford. I live 10 minutes from there. I live in Brantford, so it's worth it for me to maintain a good rapport with my neighbors and with the people in the area, because I'm a builder. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Tony. That's a lot of good information, and to put your contact out there for any neighbors, to allow them to contact you and have that kind of open dialogue throughout the process is certainly something that could help. I think I also want to call on staff just to provide kind of that assurance on staff's, on behalf of the city. I'll note that as a condition of consent of this application, the lot creation, there's a long list of items that need to be completed, a lot of detailed technical review. And one of those conditions is the site plan control approval. Sean, can you provide the resident and anyone else listening a little bit about what that involves?
Through you, Mr. Chair, of course, the site plan control is process. It's really a technical review of this proposed development to really make sure it's not going to have adverse impacts on neighboring properties there. So our engineering team will take a really close look at the grading of the site, the servicing of the site. We'll comment on some of the elevations that are provided, the materials used. So if one of the submissions we do require with site plan is the elevations themselves. So if the builder here submits an one-story elevation for a bungalow, that's what gets stamped and approved, and then he's held to build that. He'll also need to provide securities to us, financial securities, just to make sure that what's proposed to be built in terms of servicing and damage that could occur to the public portion of the property can be covered with the monies that he has provided. So in a nutshell, that is the site plan process. He'll also have to sign an agreement, which the city is party to, that what he's proposed and what's being approved by the city will be built there. I also wanted to mention the noise study. I know you mentioned that earlier, Sharon. The reason the noise study was requested for the other application was actually because it was adjacent to a CN rail line. So while that's not really related to this application, it's just to ensure that the proposed development on the other property will have the necessary measures to protect it from the noise that's coming off of the CN rail line there. So I hope that helps with some of your questions.
Sharon, is that a little bit helpful?
I guess it is. I just feel a little blindsided by it because we didn't have very much time. I didn't even really know which questions to ask. So, this is my investment too, and it's my quality of life too. And I'm glad that the builder will make $1.5 million, but I will have to live in a construction zone. And that's not pleasant either during a pandemic, when going and sitting in my backyard is my holiday and is my peace of mind and that sort of thing. So I just wish I would have had more time, and that I could have learned more about bylaws. And I just feel like we're vulnerable. He knows a lot about bylaws. He's a builder, and residents don't. And we had 4 days. So I guess that's my big complaint.
Fair comments. Tony, did you have anything?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm just curious. I don't know why the neighbors, or Sharon, in Sharon's case, she would have only got this notification 4 days ago. I think there was actually 2 notifications sent out. One was sent in error for the previous meeting in October, and then they resent it again a few days later, a week later. So I think from what I recall, we've had 3 or 4 weeks to review this. And the other thing is that if I made $1.5 million on selling 2 homes, I would have retired a long time ago. So that's the sale price. That's the investment. Yeah. So that's not what I'm making, just so you know. And I'm not out to create hardship for the neighbors. I'm out to put a good product there. I'm proud of what I do and the people that work for me. And I think once you see the finished product, you'll be proud that this is what's gone up. It's a beautiful neighborhood. Like I said, I don't live too far away from there. And I've done a lot of homes in the area. So I think just we'll let time tell. And hopefully by the time springtime comes and maybe some of this other stuff is out of the way and things have calmed down a bit, then people will be, have a chance to get out and look. You know, I have my sign up there. I have my sign, so with my phone number on it, and you can call me anytime you want with questions. So.
Thank you. Thanks, Tony, for those additional comments. Sean, some comments related to the notice?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I just wanted to clarify that we do give the statutory notice that's required by the Planning Act, and for a consent application, that's 15 days, and for a minor variance, that's 10 days. I don't know the exact date off the top of my head when this application itself was circulated, but it would have been within the statutory requirements of the Planning Act.
I did get the notice of hearing on October 15, but the part that I would have liked sooner than that is the part with all the plans, and when this city mounts a big, 5-paragraph essay about why they support it. I only had access to that on Friday, October 30th after 3 p.m. And then I wasn't just complaining anymore. I knew that I was up against something very big. So I just would have liked more time than those 4 days.
Mr. Muto?
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Joe Muto, Manager of Development Planning. Just like to clarify for the resident, for Sharon, that my staff is available 5 days a week. We are either working in the office or working from home, and there is contact information on the statutory notice that was provided and is provided for every C of A or Committee of Adjustment application. So that information, if requested by staff, would have been provided to you at an earlier date, the day you got the notice. Mr. House or Ms. O'Neill, who wrote the staff report, would have provided you or could have provided you with that information a lot earlier. And we are always available to the residents and to committee and to any resident or developer for that matter, that if there's questions to be asked, we are always around and will respond in a very timely manner. I just wanted to clarify that for the committee tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Muto. Sharon, I hope that's been helpful, and further to Joe's or Mr. Muto's comments and Tony's comments. These individuals and staff are available to you to ask questions and provide you with information throughout the process. So I hope you've appreciated this opportunity.
I do appreciate the opportunity very much. I'm very happy to live in this city, in this country, and be able to have a voice. Thank you for taking the time to answer my questions on this. I hope we can, well, I know what I hope for, but no matter what happens, I hope we can all, work together. I feel like the decision has already been pretty set, so.
Just to provide one more layer to that, based on that final comment. So the Committee of Adjustment is a kind of a appointed committee from council. We are residents with with an interest of giving back to the community that we live in. And our decision is based on staff's professional recommendation. Our decision is based on the comments that we received from the public and our own perspectives based on discussion here tonight. So we are not encouraged by any political influences. We make our own decisions. And I think that's important for you to understand as well, is that we take those items into consideration and we make our own decision based on the information provided to us. So it's a little bit different from other committees, but I just wanted to share that with you and anyone listening, because we are a little bit different from other committees. It's a little bit refreshing sometimes. So at this point, I'd like to thank you both for your time. Formally close the public portion of the application, and I'll ask the committee members if there's any further questions of clarification based on any information that they've received this evening. And seeing none, I'll request that a motion be put on the floor by a member of the committee. Greg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move that, I'm just looking for the wording here. Sorry. That applications B 15/2020 and application A 19/2020 be approved as shown in the agenda in the minutes.
Thank you, Greg. Seeking a seconder, Virginia. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? I see no hands, so no discussion on the motion. So with that being said, we'll call the vote.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand and leave it raised until you hear your name called. Tara Gaskin. Okay, Greg Kempa, Lee Reiner, Dan Nemesniak, Virginia Kershaw, and Christina Brooks. That carried on a recorded vote of 6-0.
Okay, thank you, Tony.
Thanks very much, everybody, for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Take care.
Moving on the agenda, items for consideration. I see no items listed for consideration. Consent items. We have the minutes from the previous meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from the previous meeting? Any comments, errors, or omissions? Seeing none, I will call a vote with the motion. It's not in my script. I'll look for a mover. Greg, 3 for 3, and Lee, seconder. And I will call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Is it recorded? No, it's not recorded. It is recorded, but it's not like the other ones. Yeah, so that concludes the agenda this evening. Like to thank the committee members and the residents and the applicants again for taking the time. We will most likely be in this meeting format again next month. Any update on number of applications for December? Oh, Sean.
To you, Mr. Chair, we have a larger number coming. I believe it's in the 5 or 6 range. So
very good.
A busy meeting.
Joe, anything further to add?
Yeah, some exciting news out of the planning department, Mr. Chairman, and would really affect this committee is on November 19th. I'm happy to say that our new official plan will be before council and committee in November. So very excited about that. Long range planning staff and our consultants and development planning staff have been working diligently on this project for the last 6 years. We're very happy to finally get it through and before council. We've had to deal with, I believe, 3 different provincial growth plans and a new PPS. So, I don't think that'll change too much going forward until we obviously have the Minister of Municipal Affairs approving the official plan. And you might see a little different format in our staff reports going forward because there'll be different policies, different criteria based on some of the decisions and recommendations that obviously come to this committee. Just wanted to highlight that. And then likely in the new year, planning staff will also be working towards a new comprehensive zoning bylaw. Once the OP is in place, we'll likely start that process at the beginning of 2021, first quarter. So some exciting news out of the planning department and a lot of new things coming forward. And just wanted to give you guys the heads up on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muto. Certainly very exciting planning news for those who get excited about policy updates. And I trust our next meeting is December 2nd. So I trust Mr. Muto will be directing staff to baking Christmas treats and delivering them to our houses. It's tradition. Can't quit on the tradition.
I did just want to make one comment about the meetings. Our council did pass a resolution that we will be meeting virtually for all committees until April of 2021. So we can expect that we will be meeting this way until April of 2021.
Okay. And I think one more that Greg was probably going to ask about our committee vacancy. Did my call to action last meeting on YouTube render any
I can say we did have a few applications. We just had our appointments meeting or committee meeting yesterday. It does have to get ratified at council on November 27th or 24th. Yes, November 24th. So we should know the night of November 24th if it gets ratified.
Perfect. So we'll probably have a spectator for the next meeting and then a new member at the table for the January meeting.
They will be here for the December meeting, actually, yes.
Oh, at the table, making decisions, throw them in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Thank you all again. I have nothing more to add unless any members have any comments or questions. And seeing none, stay safe. It's dark out. Drive safe for those who have to drive home.